What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Geoffrey and welcome to another episode of Geoffrey's Customs, and it's another My Little Pony villain, if you will. Not much people have done this character in a toy format, so get on with it, customizers, if you want to. But I know Aleximus Prime has done this, a few other people have done it, and today I'll show you how I made Lord Tirek. The first thing I had to do was get a Pinkie Pie figure and a Hulk figure from eBay, specifically a 6-inch Pinkie Pie and a Marvel Masters Hulk for this because it uses two figurines as the, whole base of a centaur, because that's what Tirek is. He's a centaur, which indicates I had to, find out how to do this without doing the Dremel because I don't own a Dremel. Which means I had to do some improvements or improvises to this. And that's what I did. I removed the pinky head and also took out the tail hair and basically just discarded the head of the pinky figure because I didn't need it. And I also removed Hulk's legs as well as those the ball joints on the legs because I don't need those. So the legs might be used for maybe a Thomas project if I made a Thomas with legs. But besides the case, back to this project. What I did for this, because it was a little bit top heavy due to the width of the waist of the Hulk. Basically, I hot glued the Hulk body to the Pinkie Pie body so that it can work as a small, steady core that I could sculpt the epoxy around. That way, it won't be so heavy. The next thing I decided to do was the horns, which were a bit of an interesting thing because I had to do this at least 3 times just to make sure that the epoxy was durable enough for these horns to go on without them snapping off. But they ended up holding up really well, very sturdy. What you see the ball joints is from a tie-dye epoxy as the base for that. Yeah, I basically used the legs of a tie-dye epoxy for the bases of the horns, so that way they can connect to the connector pieces for the horn bases on the head. And that's what I did. Speaking of the head, I basically sculpted over the head to make it look more like Tirek, and the hair on his head and the beard had to be done at least 3 times as well because I just felt like the other 2 versions were they just didn't seem to satisfy. And you can see the leg pieces from the Foxy figure are there. The tie-dye Foxy figure are there for the connection of the horn so that they can either fold or articulate if you want to, or for easier way of taking them apart because I don't have any Lego cross pegs with me. After it cured, one of the horn supports broke off, so I had to use a little bit of hot glue to secure it back on, and that's why you see a little bit of hot glue on there, because it just broke off. But I was able to fix it, easy fix. The little ring on his nose is actually a piece of an old keychain that I had, and that would work perfectly to give it a realistic look because he wears a nose ring similar to a bull, or an ox, if you will. The ears are basically tie-dye Foxy's ears because that's what I used for the horns, because I needed them. Doing the tail was pretty interesting because I had to do it twice because the first one was just too small, but the second one, what you see above here, is a lot better. I used a arm piece from the tie-dye Foxy because it worked. It surprisingly fits inside the Pinkie Pie, body where the tail was supposed to be. So it probably can give it some articulation once it's all set up. Which this tail I like better than the old tail. Back to the body. The thing I did with the body was I basically also did this with the fists. Is I filled up the ports with epoxy sculpt to make them a little more rounder and I couldn't shape down those biceps because they would just because there was just too many divots to insinuate realistic muscles, so I kept it as is. You can see the amount of epoxy sculpt. That's why I filled up around the hot glue so it could stay more sturdier. And this is just the core part of it. It's gonna be a lot smoother and stuff like that because I also sculpted the neck ring, which looks a little thick, but that's okay, as well as little tufts of hair on that are like around his neck, so it helps understand where it all works. Here is the Tirek body so far when it was being, constructed. I smoothed in the body and gave it a little line in the middle that separates the human body and the horse body, and filled in the hands because I wanted Tirek to have like closed fists, because the Hulk had an open hand and another hand with a hole in it to hold weapons that he would come with, but I didn't want that. So I just filled him in, and it was just too easy. And I also I basically made sure that the open hand was closed thanks to the epoxy sculpt, so I sculpted the fingers in that one. Here's Lord Tirek all assembled before I paint him, and so far he does look pretty good. Yeah. This is just a picture before one of the horn supports snapped off, so that's why you don't see hot glue on it compared to the other picture. Painting the tail, the main body, the head, the horns, and everything else was really easy because it's the fun part of doing these customs. Like, it's like the fun and simple part because you get to make sure, but you have to follow reference if you want to make it look as accurate as possible as I did, because I didn't want there to be any imperfections that could lead to it being like an incorrect color. So I mixed up the colors and basically added them in so that way they can work with the actual character, as you see here with all these pictures. I also made sure before I made the red parts I put some white paint on so that the red looks more vibrant, as you see here with these parts right here, like the fist, the head, and stuff like that. After that, I basically varnished the figurine and then assembled it, and basically he does look really good, like really good. All things aside, here's my Lord Tirek, and yeah, he looks really awesome. Like, I think this is like one of the greatest customs of 2025 that I did when it comes to a character. I'm not the first person to do this, so full credit to this goes for the idea goes to Aleximus Prime, who made his Tirek a few times before, and I was just following in his footsteps because I wanted a Tirek of my own, and this is just inspiration, so all credit goes to him. But yeah, Tirek is awesome.
Is he friend? Is he foe? Everyone wonders. I can assure you, he is no friend. He is Lord Tirek.
Alright guys, so here's Tirek all finished up, and he looks awesome. As said before, I used a Masher's Hulk as well as a 6-inch Pinkie Pie that I got from eBay for this. And I used almost all my epoxy sculpt just to get the horns, set up to dry, as well as the beard and the part that, separates the human body from the horse body, as well as the tail. For scaling, he's pretty big. Like, comparing him to me, that's how big he scales to an average pony. But articulation wise for this Tirek, his head can move up, like it can look up. Not much side to side movement because of the beard interfering with the neck ring. You can move the arms like almost a full 360, but can't this one with the horns in the way. But you can move the elbows like a 90 degree and spin. I'm not going to demonstrate it right now because I don't want to risk paint scratch. I mean, it's just a custom that I made, so I don't really care. Because I call myself the decent kind. I'm not like the most supreme toy customizers, but if you want to, the horns can move as well. Which, the way I implemented that, instead of using like Lego blocks, I sacrificed the tie-dye Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's, like a tie-dye Foxy just for his legs, so that it could work for the support of the horns as well as articulation of the horns. And taking them apart, like for moving or storage reuse, it's the same as Alex's version of Tirek, where you just take out the horns, head, and the arms and tail. I really enjoyed this custom, and he might scale pretty well as I need more villains for my action figure collection. So I'll get a few pictures of this guy, like, maybe. But whatever the case, this is my custom Lord Tirek. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.